We're 6:30. We're starting on time. Okay, here we go. Open session called to order. It is 6:30 on the dot. Please join me for a moment of silence for our military personnel, first responders who have given the ultimate sacrifice, please. Thank you for that. Now please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this evening, Lord. Thank you that we get to come together as a community, Lord, and look at all the things that we're doing in our city and hopefully make it a better place, Lord, not just here, but regionally and up and down the state as well, Lord. Thank you for all the commitment and dedication that everyone gives to this community. We are so blessed to have such an amazing Memorial Day weekend, and we saw that with so many Canyon Lakers coming out and honoring the men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice, Lord. And thank you, and keep us accountable, and remember that we do everything to honor you, and in your name, amen. My mentor, Nancy Horton, will you please lead us in the pledge? Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you're here.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you for that. All right, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Castillo?
Here.
Councilmember Dane? Here. Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Here.
Councilmember Welty?
Here.
Mayor Smith?
Can you please conduct the roll call here? All right. Closed session report. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Thank you, Mayor. We have no items to report out of closed session at this time.
Perfect. Moving on. I need approval of the City Council agenda. Mr. City Manager, are there going to be any changes this evening? Perfect. Moving on. I do need a motion and a second on this.
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The staff has made a wager. They're thinking that tonight is going to be a 3.5-hour council meeting. I'm going to try to do it in 2 hours, so we're going to have to rock and roll to do that. All right, we are moving right along to the ceremonial matters. This is one of the best things that we get to do, in my opinion, and I think it was our former Mayor, Councilwoman Castillo, that started the Citizen of the Month. Is that right? That was something that you brought forward that we do regularly now? Of course, so you two brought it. So the first order of business is going to be a proclamation for National Day of Prayer. So can I please have Nancy and Ted join me up here? All right. And then we get to do my favorite Citizen of the Month. Do you have a microphone? Go. Check one. Perfect. You guys get to sit up here. Over, you got to join me. Come on. I know. So last month, we were going to do this because we had National Day of Prayer. Nancy, if you don't know, for those of you that are listening, but Nancy and Ted, they've worked, man, what is it, 9 years you guys have been a part of this? So 9 years ago, they brought to Canyon Lake the National Day of Prayer, and if any of you here have attended this event, it is unbelievable. I've had the pleasure of being able to be a part of it over the last few years. Obviously, COVID interrupted that for one of the years, but it's an unbelievable event, and they've passed on the buck to a few Canyon Lakers here. I know that Donna Ritchie's taken it on, and she's going to be a huge impact for the upcoming one. I think Travis Montgomery too, but you know, to be honest with you, I said earlier, Nancy, that you're one of my mentors because the dedication that you've given to the community, not just on the council where I sit now, but also on our water board. And then with this, something that is truly dear to my heart, it means a lot for the things that you have done for this community. So I'm very thankful, and on behalf of my colleagues, to give you this proclamation. But I'm not going to let you leave without saying a few words, Nancy. So you have to tell us a little bit about your experience and what this means to you.
Thank you very much. I think this year, one of the best things that happened was the entire city council was at the National Day of Prayer. And that did not go unnoticed by our pastors. They were very excited about that. We started because I thought we needed to follow the National Day of Prayer in our community, but I found out that the pastors didn't know each other. It was like islands in the stream. They weren't friends, they weren't talking. And I thought, well, God darn it, if we have a really big event here in our area and we need our religious leaders to come forward, they're going to have to work together. They should at least know each other's names. So from that very first time, they got to know each other. I think a few of them sneak off together and have breakfast once in a while, which is a huge thing. The second part of it is honoring our nation. We pray for our city, for our county, for our state, for the government, but we pray most importantly for our veterans, for those who we've lost in the service. But Casey Castillo always gives the prayer for the first responders, and she gives a most moving prayer, honoring the families as well as the people who work in blue and black and all the colors of EMS and all that. So it has been a coming together of the community. We only have one church in our borders, but we invite, like Elsinore, Menifee, we invite people from all over the place. And it's a good thing for us to show that community on the first Thursday of May every year. We don't get to pick the date. And Renee Griffith stepped forward and helped us too this year. She had enough to do juggling the POA and the election and all the rest of it. But she helped us out with getting more people involved, which was great. And I want to thank Donna for coming up and helping, and for Travis Montgomery, both of whom did an amazing job. So I hope people continue. I hope there'll be a 10th and a 20th and all the rest of it, because it is worthwhile. So Jeremy, thank you so much.
And because the entire council was there, can you please come up here and take a photo with Nancy and Ted? I know it's so quiet. We need to play rap music. Come on, Tyler.
Everyone look over here. 1, 2, 3.
Awesome. All right, don't go anywhere, council. You gotta stay here. You're thank you so much. All right. Now, one of my favorite things, Citizen of the Month. Can I please have Matt and Luke come up, please, and join us? These fine young men have done some incredible things in the community, so yes, please give them a round of applause. Come on up. So before we kind of go into the presentation of the certificate, I'm going to let Dale and Jennifer tell us a little bit about their experience at Happy Camp, because I was told that Luke set up a little library, and I think both of you were there. Right. So tell us a little bit about it.
I just want to say thank you for the boys for coming through and getting us the library up at the Happy Camp. The work the community's been doing in Happy Camp and the POA is making that kind of a premier facility. For many years it was kind of it was kind of getting run down, and they had to spend a lot of money, but now the families and the kids are up at Happy Camp. It's full of life. The boys are committed to doing volunteer and doing the library up there. I just think it's a wonderful thing. And for everyone that has children this age, this is summer. Canyon Lake has a whole array of things to help our children go through the summer and be successful. I think Canyon Lake, it should be a place where it's known for giving an opportunity for our kids to become successful human beings and successful in school and successful in their giving to the community. And please, all of you out there, take advantage of what the community's offering and the POA is offering. And boys, thank you very much for everything you've done. Appreciate it. I love when kids are Citizens of the Year.
So,
Or Citizens of the Month.
Jennifer, tell us a little bit about, there was over, 25, 30 people there, and, what did you experience? How was it when you saw what they were putting together?
So the little library unveiling was it was very nice to see in the community. I know we have at least one more, but not on that side of the lake. So nice for people that are there camping and anybody who is an avid reader to get a book and share a book. But just a really nice community give back
Right.
for everybody to use.
All right, so Luke, that was your experience, right? Now, you guys are, I was told, twins. Is that true? You're trying to mix it up with one wearing glasses, one not, but truly you're twins. So, Luke, you did the library, and then, let's see here, we had Matt that did in Wildemar. Is that correct? You put together, didn't you make one of the parking spaces memorial, and you donated, got some money raised? Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, so, well, my project, I was repainting the disabled parking spaces as well as the Purple Heart parking space at the VFW. And also, I got together money fundraised to get bricks that we laid at the Veterans Memorial at the VFW.
That's awesome. So what made you decide to do that? What was the driving force behind it?
Well, the VFW has helped us a lot in our troop, so I wanted to give back to them for all they did.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to the two of you. We have a certificate here for you. We're going to take a group photo, so you get a smile. One more
Mayor
time.
Smith, they also help with the flags for
That's
Memorial
right.
Day.
So you guys help put out flags. So you got to experience. So you got to experience how difficult our ground is here in Canyon Lake. Then. So how many flags did each of you break trying to stick them in the ground?
Oh, I didn't break any.
Oh. But you broke a few? Well, that's not bad. I broke 11, so you're good. All right, we're going to take some photos. I'm going to present these to you. Here you go. You guys have one. And then there you go. All right.
Look at time.
All right, so right here, 1, 2, 3.
I'm sorry.
Microphone in my picture.
Good job. Congratulations, you all. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good job. Cool.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. Moving right along, we are now community reports. First, we have our president, Darcy Burke.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, Council, residents, and guests. Two things before I give my full report is first, I don't want to forget that June 25th on Saturday from 9 to noon at Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District headquarters in Lake Elsinore, we will have Splash into Summer. So we have activities for the kids, we have food, we have vendors, we have tours, all kinds of interactive activities. It's free to the public, and we encourage everybody to come. Second, I want to thank Tyler. I'm going to so miss that man. He has been so great about coordinating the roundtables and herding ferrets, because cats sleep more than ferrets, and ferrets are faster. So I'm going to miss Tyler. I wish him the best. From our perspective, he's really worked really hard to keep that roundtable group together and organized. So thank you, Tyler, very, very much. I'm going to talk a little bit about drought, everybody's favorite water topic. So far, you see everything in the media that one day a week watering or no watering. First of all, we live in a media desert out here. We do not have our own media channel or platform. So we hear LA or San Diego. Next week, we have, after very much discussion today, going to move to what we call Stage 3A, which doesn't mean anything to anyone unless you're an engineer and you memorized our rate structure, of drought. And that's actually, there's good news and bad news. One of the things we had asked the governor for is we have a drought management plan, let us use it. Don't be putting one fell swoop of mandates and restrictions on everyone when it's not equitable or the same. So for right now, we're able to manage our drought the way we see fit. So that means most likely, should we approve what's before us next week, you'll be able to water your landscape 3 days a week. If you are a business owner of any kind, that includes the POA, and have what we call non-functional turf, which means nobody's really walking on it or playing on it, it's not athletic, they're going to ask you to stop watering it completely unless that is watered with recycled water. Everybody has a water budget. There's 4 levels of water budget. Your level 1 is your indoor use. Level 2 is your outdoor. 3 is wasteful, and 4 is excessive. Out of my entire division, and I'm trying to get just Canyon Lake, 25% of my division is in wasteful or excessive. And if we just were in our budget, the draconian measures that are going to come next we would be able to avoid. Because if we can demonstrate that we have reduced our usage, that we are following what the state is recommending, a lot of benefit happens to that. When you are going to be in the higher 2 tiers, you are going to have a drought surcharge placed on your water bill. So for every CCF or unit, as we measure it, you're going to pay an extra $1.59, I think, in 3, and I think it's $1.72 in 4. What we have been able to avoid so far, and I've adamantly fought against, is what I call a drought tax, meaning that everybody pays an additional fee every month because we're in a drought. The governor and the state water board like that. They want us to take that money and encourage people to make change. I think education and information is a better way to go. Financial damages or fines are not always going to make people change their behavior, especially in this area. I know that 42% of Canyon Lake is on auto pay. I'm still waiting to see what that open rate, but I bet it's below 5%. So people aren't even opening their bill or paying attention. But what I can tell you is if we get to its very dire, we are going to turn on that water treatment plant. We're going to notify you that it does exceed the PFAS level, but it is still okay to drink. And that means the water level's going to go down. That means no boats in the East Bay. That means all those things that everybody really hates would be moving forward faster. But we can't just leave a resource of that much water left untouched if we get to that point. So for whatever motivates you to open your bill, look and see what your water usage is, and just use what you need. I'm never one to tell you to conserve. Just be efficient, don't waste it. It's like any other resource we have. So there will be more information. There's a lot more rebates now. They've added more money. If you want to take out your turf and replace it, if you want to add a smart irrigation timer, if you want to have a heat recirculating pump on your water heater so you're not letting the water run to get hot water, there's a lot of options. So I'm happy to take any questions. This is something we'll consider at our June 9th board meeting.
Any questions? Absolutely. Mr. Green.
On our current bills, we have 1, 2, and 3, 4. And are those going to change? Because one is your
Indoor.
allocated water usage. And if you don't exceed that, it shows you where you are based on the graph, based on how much you've used, whether you're going to be close to it or not.
Right.
Is that still going to be in place?
Right now, that your budgets are not changing.
The budgets will be the
The
same.
budgets will be the same.
So
There
is it-
may come a point, if we are in very dire straits, where you may lose all but tier 1. And it would have to be a catastrophe, which would be, you can only use for health and safety water is what we would call it. In addition.
Has that ever happened?
No. Actually, the last time we were in a situation similar to this, the fines for exceeding your budget, your water budget, were in place. The next step, according to the state, is we have to put flow restrictors on your meter. So when people say, I don't care, I'm going to use it anyway, we're mandated by law to go in there and put a flow restrictor in, so you can't use hardly any water.
How much does a flow restrictor cost?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm happy to report we've never had to do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more bad news.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. All right, moving right along, Canyon Lake Property Owners Association, we have our president, Renee, is in the house.
I actually wrote something down. It's in large font, even though it's a whole paper, so it won't be too long. So thank you very much, Mayor and council members, city manager, and everybody else for allowing me to be here. We'd like to first thank the fire department for being part of the Fiesta Day Parade, which was absolutely fantastic to have them there. Thank you for everyone, all our dignitaries who showed up. I personally felt like it was just a giant family in our area, having a good time, waiting for the parade to start, so I really appreciate you being there. Fiesta Day was an overwhelming success and a great kickoff to summer. I want to thank City Council especially for the flags. That was perfect because Fiesta Day is a party and it's all about the men and women who
Yes.
served and sacrificed their lives. So thank you for doing that. I'm excited for all the other flag opportunities you're going to have for everybody. The new board met and we completed our orientation. We are ready to go. Our first board meeting is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. I'd love to see more than one person there, so that would be fantastic if anyone's listening. One of the things that I did do is there's an ad hoc, as you know, an ad hoc committee that's going to address security, the city and the POA. With Bill Van Vliet being elected to the board, I have removed myself and put him in that place, which he will serve and do a phenomenal job. He knows more than security than, well, certainly more than me. So it's a perfect fit, and I'm happy to have him there. So I'm confident that the city and the POA will work together and we'll find a solution that hopefully both of us can approve and then make our community safer. Upcoming events, and this is for everybody. Family Matters Club Rush is this Saturday at 4 p.m. at Holiday Harbor. They've also invited all the Canyon Lake businesses as well as clubs, so it's a great time for everyone to come out and learn more about clubs and join clubs and the businesses here. Taco Tuesday will begin mid-June, so stay tuned on Facebook, Instagram, and our POA website to see more
Nice.
about that. Fireworks, obviously, the 4th of July will be spectacular. I won't be here, but it will be amazing. And last, and this is just a little heads up for all the people who attend our POA board meetings in July, we're going to move it to July 11th versus the day after the 4th of July, which would have been July 5th, and awful for probably everyone. So I just wanted to let you know so you can mark your calendars. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Everyone good? Thank you so much.
Trying to get you under your 2 hours.
Yes. People are listening. That's cool. Chambers of Commerce update by our president, Jeannie Odell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. In respect of your full agenda, I'm going to make this really brief tonight. First of all, I do want to say this is probably the first time that I've known that you actually have 3 presidents who are female here tonight.
Whoop, whoop.
So
Heck yeah.
with that, I would like to say thanks to Tyler. I promised him I wouldn't say anything too bad because he knows I'm mad at him. But I just want to thank him publicly for his guidance support over the last couple of years. Without him, the chamber wouldn't be part of what it is today. I also just want to remind everybody of our Canyon Cash program that we've launched in partnership with the city. As of today, we've only had 9 businesses sign up, so if we can all work together and get that word out, that would be great. We will be having the anniversary ribbon cutting for Daisy Dukes on June 24th. I think everybody knows where Daisy Dukes is. And then we will also be having our restaurant week, June 19th through June 25th. So you'll start seeing some social media come out about that. So thank you very much.
Wait.
Oh,
Do we
yes,
have
sir.
any questions? No questions? You know what? 9 is more than the, 4 or 5 that we had 24, 48 hours ago?
Exactly. We've increased our participation by 100% as of yesterday.
We did the right
So,
thing.
we're good.
We're doing it.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. All right, moving on. Public safety, code enforcement. Ruby, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. So I'm just going to dive right into our BLM. for the month of April. So we actually had our BLM ranger out there. They did a saturation patrol of BLM land with the assisting agencies, county parks, BLM Fire, California Game Wardens, and they made 119 contacts, so that means that's how many people were out there, 43 warnings, and a total of 33 citations were issued out there. So it was a very successful task they had out there. 3 short-term vacation rentals were found. Notices of violations were issued to all 3 of those. Down to our residential rental registrations, we have 352. Total 315 that have renewed, 32 still pending renewal. 29 residential rental inspections were conducted for the month of May. And from last month, we had 81 properties who had not scheduled their inspections, and we are now down to 49.
Awesome. Cool. Any questions?
No, congratulations on the task force, apparently, if that's not what it was, of getting control of BLM. If you've got to hit it early in the season, once there's the word's out and the foothold's in, getting control of something like that is incredibly hard, so
Yeah.
kudos to you guys.
That was pretty amazing. Thank you.
Did you guys look at the picture? Yeah, it looks like a weekend in my hood. These guys are getting paid to do this. Where do I sign up? Thank you. We good? Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Chief, floor is yours. Tell us about fire.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, City Council, Jeff Lieutenant, your Fire Chief. I'll give our update for the month of May. If I could just figure out the IT.
That's so cool.
There we go. Okay, so for the month of May, we had a total of 81 responses, pretty much on average with what we've seen for the past 5 months since we've been in operation, a little lower than we were in April. We thought that our Memorial Day weekend would be a lot busier than it was, but I'll go into those statistics here in just a little bit, but it was not as busy as we thought it might be. Of those 81 responses, you can again see how they're broken out. We had 2 fires, 61 medical aids, 2 hazardous material incidents, and basically some miscellaneous calls after that. Our fire responses, we did respond on May 6th to a vegetation fire in the city of Lake Elsinore. It was a small brush fire that we assisted with the overhaul and extinguishment and investigation, which was next to a trailer. And then on May 25th, we had a report of a structure fire in the 30,000 block of Early Round Drive, and it was actually a fire in the fireplace. And just kind of the irony of it, it was one of our residents' children who was celebrating the end of school with a book burning party. So they forgot to open the flue and filled the house up with smoke. So we were on scene to evacuate all the smoke from the residents.
All right. Okie dokie.
What time of day do our incidents occur at? We're still seeing about the same trend that we have seen. The middle of the afternoon is still our busiest time. The early morning hours are our least busy time. And again, we're trying to plan our activities when we get fuel, when we do our other details, in those periods of time when we're less prone to get an emergency response. And overall, year-to-date, that trend continues as we look at from January 1st all the way through May, the end of May. Where are our calls occurring at? Well, again, most of our calls, being a small residential community, are occurring in our single-family dwellings. 57 responses have been there. I talk about it every month, but this month we had 3 incidents where people walk up to the fire station with a medical aid. And while that's convenient, we want to emphasize again to everyone to call 911. They're not always at the fire station, and so we just want to highlight that point. Our response times for the month of May, a little bit of change there. Our turnout time actually went up about 6 seconds. We were at 1 minute 13 seconds for our average turnout time. Our travel time went down about 4 seconds, so we were on average about 4 minutes 33 seconds. And then overall, our total response time went up about 10 seconds. You'll see this month that there's both engine 1 and engine 201 there. We had some maintenance that was being performed on our primary engine, and so that's why we have that reserve apparatus, so it can jump right in and replace our primary engine. Again, what we think is almost more important than the average response time is the fractile response time. And again, we're just looking at EMS incidents and Code 3 incidents here. But 90% of the time, for turnout time, we are getting out of the station within 1 minute 56 seconds. So that did go up just a little bit, about 11 seconds. But our travel time, 90% of the time, we were arriving on scene within 6 minutes and 8 seconds, which went down 48 seconds from the previous month. Overall, the total response time went down 49 seconds to 7 minutes 46 seconds, which is 1 second off our goal of 7 minutes 45 seconds. So overall, our personnel are doing an outstanding job of getting out and on scene as quickly and as safely as time and conditions permit. Automatic aid and mutual aid that we gave to outside jurisdictions during the month of May, we gave a total of 9 incidents. 8 of them were in Lake Elsinore, and 1 of them was in Menifee. Throughout the year since January, we have responded a total of 43 times outside the city, 35 in Lake Elsinore, 5 in Menifee, and 3 in Paris. And I would like to point out as we look at the maps that when we say those jurisdictions, it's mailing addresses is what we're getting that from. So as you look at the heat maps here, you'll see a lot of the call volume is along Railroad Canyon Road and up Canyon Hills and out the North Gate. It's going to be along that Highway 74 corridor. So a lot of that is unincorporated area, but it has a Lake Elsinore mailing address. So that's how those are connected to Lake Elsinore. Riverside County, on the other hand, has responded into the city during the month of May 14 times, and they made it on scene 9 times. The other 5 times they were canceled prior to them arriving on scene. So Engine 94 out of Lake Elsinore was 14 dispatches. Engine 101 out of the city of Paris was 1 response, and Engine 76 out of the city of Menifee had 1 response in. So overall, Riverside County CAL FIRE has come into the city for 54 responses thus far this year. And if you look at this heat map, you can see year-to-date where all those responses have been inside the city. So when they come in, typically they're responding in on a call where we are also on a call, or it's an incident of a magnitude that more than 1 engine was required. Training hours, our firefighters continue to train hard each and every day. The A shift completed 35 hours in the month. Our goal is a minimum of 20. So year-to-date, they have 317. The B shift had 18. Little behind, so we're working with them. They have a total of 138 year-to-date. And C shift had 31 hours. And so this month, we were focusing on hazardous materials training and area familiarization at the town center. The Riverside County hazmat truck came down and has trained each of our 3 shifts. And what you see here is they're doing a mass decon operation where if an area of assembly had been exposed to some kind of a contaminant, we would set up these 2 fire engines with nozzles coming off them, and we would have the people walk between them, and we would be able to decontaminate them quickly. So that's what that training was all about. Fire prevention continues to keep us occupied. As we said last month, our fire prevention portal is now up and running online, just like the building departments. We did 5 site plan reviews, 3 sprinkler plan reviews, 4 construction inspections. We processed 6 special permit applications. We did 6 special event inspections. Most of those were at the Fiesta Days. And what we call LE 100 inspections, or when a home sells now in the very high fire hazard severity zone, those homes, as a condition of the escrow, have to be inspected. And so we completed 2 of those inspections last month. Public education and relations, as you said earlier, our firefighters are out there. They were at the junior lifeguard tryouts. They were at the National Day of Prayer. They've been doing station tours. They participated in the Peace Officers Memorial Day. They were there for Home Run Derby, Little League's closing day, movie night at the park, Fiesta Days. They stopped by and visit lemonade stands, And we even had an EMT ride-along during this month. So a very, very busy month for us in our public education and relations. A significant event really was staffing up and planning for Fiesta Days. First time as our fire department there. We know that Memorial Day is a busy holiday weekend, not just in our community, but in the county. And so we made a decision to staff up a second paramedic engine. So we had our Engine 1 with 4 personnel, our Engine 201 with 4 personnel, and Battalion Chief Samuels was in the city 48 hours straight from Saturday through Monday morning. On Saturday, we responded to 8 emergency incidents. 6 of those were simultaneous. So if we didn't have that second unit there, 6 times we would have had to call on the county. We were able over the holiday weekend to handle every call ourselves. We did not have to call in any mutual aid. And conversely, we did not go outside the city for any mutual or automatic aid during that 3-day holiday weekend. So that's my report, and I'm available for any questions that you might have. Of course, this was one of our responses on
Darcy, close your eyes. I know. Close your eyes either way.
And thank
This
you.
is definitely tier 12 right here.
And thanks to the Canyon Lake Insider for that great picture.
Chief, got one quick question for you. A shift B, obviously, you said they did 18 hours. They're at 138. What's the goal? What do you want them to be at?
We want them to be at 20 hours per month, so over the 5 months, they should be around 200.
Got it. Okay.
I'm sorry, 100.
100, yeah. Thank you. Any other questions for our chief? Mr. Green?
Yes, on your stats for EMS, is there any way you, in your reporting, you can break that down into, and this is just going to be gross, ALS versus BLS?
I believe we can get that data for you, sir. Yes, sir.
So we got 61 calls. How many of those are ALS? How many?
Yep, I understand.
Okay.
We'll try to break that out for you next month.
Thank you.
Okay?
Any other questions?
I just had one statement on the public relations. You forgot that your firefighters were out there putting
That's
flags
right.
in
They were.
the yards. And
I think I just included that as part of Fiesta Days.
There was a lot of commentary that I heard about that and how just it made people very happy to see firefighters out there planting flags in the yard. So thank you for that.
And
That was
they
awesome.
were volunteers. Every single one of them was a volunteer. We had one of our reserve firefighters out there that volunteered, so they were off duty on their own time for the community.
So cool. It was an amazing weekend. Thank you, Chief.
that
Any
was
other
really
questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Lieutenant Rolls isn't here, so we are moving on. Public comments. Madam Clerk, will you please read the public comment statement?
Any person wishing to address the city council on any matter within the jurisdiction of the city, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is asked to complete a speaker request form available on the back counter. The completed form is to be submitted to the city clerk prior to an individual being heard by the city council. The city council has adopted a time limitation of 3 minutes per person. If you're commenting on the agenda item, your comments will be heard at the time that particular item is scheduled on the agenda. Please note that if you're addressing the city council on items not on the agenda, the Brown Act does not allow discussion of such items. Therefore, the city council may only do the following: refer the matter to staff, ask for additional information or request to report back, or give a very limited factual response. Members of the public may still submit their comment electronically by sending an email with their comments to publiccomment@canyonlakeca.gov. Comments submitted electronically will be provided to the city council and included in the official record, but will not be read aloud during this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's our public comments format. Now moving on to consent calendar. Will you please read the consent calendar statement?
Mr. Mayor, we actually do have public comment.
Okay.
So we have 3 cards. We'll start with Steve, is it Hipsack?
Correct.
Thank you.
You got the time, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Thank you. Steve, the
3
floor is
minutes.
yours.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Steve Hipsack, 3846-187. Recently, it has come to my attention that the city has some intention of acquiring some 20 acres outside of Northgate. Along with that thought, there have been rumors that if that occurs, you will be eliminating the equestrian center. I'm asking for your comments regarding that.
Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you, Steve.
Any questions?
Would you like me to address that? Unfortunately, because of the Brown Act, the council cannot engage in back and forth discussion, but we've made note of your comments and I have your information. We can follow up with you.
So when will the community be aware of some information regarding this?
I will let the city manager address that.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to respond?
Yes.
That's one of the more ridiculous things that I've heard.
Yeah, very much so.
City has nothing to do with the equestrian center. That's a POA facility. So I'm not sure where that rumor would have come from, but it's quite silly.
That's the answer. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. All right, next.
We're going to move on to John Stelzner. I have you down, sir, I have you down for item 11. Item 11 is adopting a resolution setting the fees for the EMS subscription program. Is your comment on the fees for the program, or do you have a general comment about the program itself? Okay, go ahead and.
Good evening. My name is John Stelzner. I stood before the City Council about 5 years ago, and I mentioned that there was an article in the Press Enterprise concerning the City of Menifee changing zip codes. They had at least, I think, 2 or 3 areas that had different zip codes, and the money that was collected for those zip codes was going to a different city. Menifee didn't like that, so they got the post office to reassign zip codes to their area. Problem with Canyon Lake is our money that's being collected on sales taxes is not going to the city. It's going to the City of Menifee. 92587 is for Menifee, Quail Valley. Either one. My mail is now being addressed to that. When I had my POA required me to change my boat insurance, they would not change it to Canyon Lake as my city of residence. The problem is there's a lot of money being wasted in going to City of Menifee. I have a friend that spent over $50,000 on sales tax for a vehicle he bought. Where did it go? Went to City of Menifee. Every car, truck, golf cart, boat, all those taxes are going to the City of Menifee, and yet we've done nothing. Now we're paying for EMS, or EMT. Unfortunately, I don't think that's right. You collected it under the, by raising the cost for trash service. It doesn't seem right to me, but that's what you did. Our idea was to get the fire department to be our own, which is maybe have been a good idea, but you think you were trying to do it to save money. And what happened? There's no money coming back to the citizens. We're still paying for EMT. Anyway, I just think we ought to consider the costs of this. It's just money is going back into the city and it's not being paid where it should be. So I thank you very much.
Mr. Stelzner, thank you so much. Mr. City Manager, do you want it? Or you want to move on?
Yeah, just briefly, I understand your concern. I think there's some misinformation in what was said. On purchases of items that are not, where the point of sale is not inside our city limits. So you mentioned a vehicle purchase. I assume that dealership was not inside the city of Canyon Lake.
We don't have any dealerships, obviously.
Well, we have some used car, but
Okay.
yes. Because the city has not established a city sales tax, the city of Canyon Lake would not receive any of that revenue. So we've looked into the issue of the zip code. We have our sales tax consultants, HDL, that have looked into that. We're comfortable that the city of Canyon Lake's not losing any sales tax to Menifee. I think what happens is sometimes, because we share a zip code, there's that confusion. But the city of Canyon Lake is only due sales tax that is generated from sales, point of sale within our city boundaries. Now, if the city were at some point to implement its own, 1%, for example, sales tax, then we would start to collect that 1% of all online sales, vehicle, boat sales, et cetera. So anytime someone ordered from Amazon or Walmart or whatever it was, we would start to collect that. And that's something to think about in the future, but we're not due any of that money currently, unfortunately.
So you're saying that the additional money we'd have to have our own sales tax like Menifee does?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Mayor, can I make a brief statement of fact on this?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. It's just because the Brown Act and stuff, I don't want to get into it. That's why I'm having staff respond. We have one more public comment?
Jack Wamsley.
Mr. Wamsley. I know 3 minutes is tough, my friend, but there's going to be a loud horn that's going to interrupt you after 3 minutes.
I don't know whether I can talk that. Well, tonight you've listened to a lot of great things. I'm here to put a damper on that. We have a situation in our community in which people are renting out their houses, and there are 7, 8 cars parked in front of neighbor's house. We have one that's running a business with 3 vans. I just drove by coming over here. He's got 6 vehicles in his lot on the street, part of it. And this is not acceptable. I don't know why we're letting that go by. You have a situation where you have 2 of your council members and you have 2 of your POA members getting together. You people have got to come up with an answer, because this situation is going to destroy Canyon Lake. There are at least 4 or 5 houses that are operating right now. Guy comes in, buys a house, rents it out. He's got $5,000, $6,000 a month coming in. I'll give you an example. Friday Flyer. Share house. 2 females, 1 man. We need another woman there. $1,150 rent 1 room. This guy's making $4,000 a month out of that house. And we just got to put a stop to it. Now, I know there's some situations where you're saying this is illegal, they can run a business out of their house. That's not true. We set it up when we set up the city, and I set the city up. And it was, if you want to run a business, then you stay in your house. And you have a computer, you can sell real estate, anything. But you run something like that guy's running down there, a plumbing operation with vans and everything in and out of his house. His people are parking across the street in front of the neighbor's house. We can't have that. And I don't have the answer for you right now. But if we let this go, it's going to destroy our city. People are going to start moving out. They're going to get the hell out of here. This place is going to be trash. So you've got to come up with something. And like I say, I don't have the answer. I just started looking into this last month. And but I've talked to several people about it, and they're unhappy about it also. And we've got to come up with an answer. And that's all I have to say. If anything I can help you with, I will.
Jack, perfect timing. Perfect timing. And you sat in this seat. We can't respond, but thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it. All right, we are moving on. Is that it for the public comment portion?
That's it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Consent calendar. Will you please read the consent calendar statement?
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member may request that an item be removed for further discussion. Staff recommends approval of all items.
With that said, do I have any council members that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, I do need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, we're moving on to a public hearing. All right, we're going to open the public hearing. This is for adoption of resolution 2022-31. The time is 7:18. I'm going to turn this over to the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Every year, the city council conducts a public hearing to set our solid waste hauling rates for the year. The city did receive correspondence on April 11th of this year from our solid waste hauler, CR&R Incorporated, requesting increases in the various rates charged for their services. A review of the change in the annual data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics for calendar year 2021 revealed an increase in CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, for all urban consumers of 5.76%. In addition, the County of Riverside's Waste Management Department has indicated that they will increase their disposal rate by 8.60%. Therefore, CR&R is requesting a new rate schedule, which passes these adjustments through to the various rates. In addition, CR&R is requesting an SB 1383 compliance fee of 3.97% on all of the rates except for the standard residential service rates. So all in for residential service, we would be looking at an increase of $1.99 a month, which would take it from what it's currently at $32.45 to $34.44 per month. We did follow the Prop 218 process on the commercial rates, and notices were sent out to the affected businesses there. So with that, Alex Brekovich from CR&R is in the audience if you have any questions, and staff recommends approval of resolution number 2022-31.
Mr. Barakovich, you are well liked, my friend, because you are put up number one in our busy meeting tonight, so someone's trying to get you out the door on a good time. Any questions from our colleagues, council members? Any questions? No questions? All right, moving on. Testimony by proponents? None? Testimony by opponents?
None.
Response by proponents? Bada bing, bada boom. Public hearing is closed, and that's 7:20, and that is a 3-minute public hearing notice. All right, discussion by city council. Anything? Wow, Alex is getting off easy tonight. We're well educated. Mr. Green, do you have anything?
If I understand, the pass-through is 8.60. That's solid waste, that's going up, that's a pass-through. And then we're increasing 3.97%, so it's a total of, whatever that adds up to, 12%.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Alex Brekovich. Yes, your rates are made up of 3 components: service component, disposal component, and franchise fees. The service component is the 5.76%. The 8.6% is the Riverside County landfill disposal fee that's going up, and then the rest is franchise fee. So the melded increase overall on your residential rate is 6.1%.
Okay.
199, I think it is, right?
Yeah, it's $199 per month.
Yeah, thank you, Sacramento. We had some good discussion this morning at our coffee meeting about Sacramento politics in regards to trash, so you missed a good one.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving right along. Tabulation of written protest by city clerk. City clerk, will you please tabulate the protest for the solid waste collection rates and inform us if a majority exists?
Mayor, I have not received any protests for this item.
Did I do that right?
Yes, you did.
Perfect. All right, adoption or action by city council. So I do need a motion and a second on this.
Make the motion.
Second.
Perfect. Let's move on to a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Perfect.
Motion carried to adopt Resolution 2022-31.
And that means aye, by the way. Perfect, meaning we're moving right on to resolution. This is business item 11, another public hearing for the adoption of resolution number 2022-32. This one, public hearing is going to be opened at 7:22. I'm going to turn this over to the city manager again.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So every year, the city council entertains and sets EMS program fees for the upcoming year. As you know, the EMS subscription program was established on November 6, 2019. In March of 2020, a fee analysis was conducted to determine the costs of providing EMS. Those rates were set at $14.83 for the response fee and $192 a year for the subscription fee. We followed the Prop 218 process here. All notices were sent out to every resident in the city in February of this year. The people have until today to opt out of the program for the coming year. Staff is not recommending any change in the fee for the upcoming year. However, in the budget that you'll be voting on later in this meeting, we do have funds included for a comprehensive fee study to examine all the city fees. The last time that was done was in 2018, so best practices for most cities is to do that every 4 or 5 years.
Right.
For us, the city has gone through pretty extensive growth and changes since 2018, so we'll be looking at our building department fees, our planning department fees, our fire prevention fees, development impact fees, and of course our EMS subscription fees as well. So look for a thorough analysis by a third-party consultant on all the fees, including the EMS fee this year. And so those fees for EMS, we'll bring those to you this time next year for adoption for the following fiscal year.
Perfect.
So with that, staff recommends approval of resolution number 2022-32.
Thank you for clarifying the comprehensive study that's going to be taking place in regards to EMS. That's good. Any other questions? Any comments? We're good. All right, moving on to testimony by proponents. We have one.
No proponents, we have one opponent.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to testimony by opponents.
Thank you.
Mr. Zonzeit?
Yes, Mr. Zeitz.
3 minutes, the floor is yours.
It's more than 3, isn't it, for a public hearing?
No, it's 3 minutes for all public comment. If it's a quasi judicial hearing, which this is not, there would be more time.
3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, okay. You know, I thought it was really interesting, back in 2019, Mr. Mayor, you had said when you proposed this without knowing what it's going to be, you're going to say, one of the things is that we can change this every year. We can take a look at this. And it amazes me that you can sit and look at your budgets and you can look at what you have. And the city manager is very proud that you're now going to pay $1.7 million for your fire department. When this was done, it was $2.1 million. There's $400,000 difference between what you charged in 2020 and what you're charging today. And in your staff's report, your consultant said you need to make changes on this on a regular basis because things changed. Well, they changed. They changed $400,000 to the better. And it also says in there that you cannot charge more, it's against the law to charge more than what the actual cost of the service. If you take your $1.7 million cost, $1.2 million, what you're going to get for your taxes, you're going to get that soon, at $800,000, which you predict to get from your EMS, if you don't make any changes, that's $2 million. That's $300,000 more than the cost of your operation. That's against the law.
Thank you, Mr. Zeitz. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
do you mind if I have a brief response to that?
Oh, absolutely, Mr. City Attorney.
I think Mr. Zeitz brings up a good point, which is that the city cannot charge more than the actual costs of providing the service, which is the exact reason why the city manager and the city council have budgeted for a fee analysis to occur in the upcoming fiscal year. The city just started its own self-contained fire department. We have no idea when we were putting this fee schedule together what the actual costs of that department are. We have projections based on historical data that the city has had for the past years. The number that was used was based on historical data for that point in time. Generally speaking, the cost of providing government services doesn't go down. In this jurisdiction, that may well be the case because of the leadership of the council and, strong fiscal constraints that you have imposed on the city. But we don't know what those actual costs are. We're not going to know until we've actually run it. And that's one of the reasons why the city has that budgeted fee study coming in. So I think that the anticipation is not only this EMS fee, but every fee that the city charges is going to be reevaluated in the upcoming year to make sure that we have it in alignment with what the actual cost of providing those services are.
I love it. Appreciate that. Thank you for that clarification.
And to do anything other than wait till we have actual costs would be to guess.
Yeah.
Which is clearly wrong.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. That would be our responses by proponents. So we are now moving on to public hearing. I'm going to close this thing out at 7:28. All right, discussion by City Council. Do we have any on this? Nope. Good? Good? Okay, everyone's good. All right, Madam Clerk, will you please tabulate the protest for the EMS program fees and inform us if a majority exists?
I have not received any protests for the EMS program fees. You may proceed.
No protest. Okay, that's good news. All right, I need a motion and a second on this.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, will you please give us a roll call vote?
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2022-32.
All right, we do have a little change in our mix-up tonight, and we're going to be taking on item number 13, which is our town center specific plan. So go ahead and tab over to that. All right, we're going to do the introduction of the first reading. This is ordinance number 222, amending the city and zone mapping for the city of Canyon Lake. This is a public hearing open, which we're going to do at 7:30. I'm going to turn this over to Jim Morrissey.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I'm very pleased to bring before you this evening a few items. We're not only doing the zone change that you mentioned, but a specific plan for the town center that we've been working on for quite a while. I've got our team of consultants here that we're going to break up the presentation into 4 pieces. So I'm going to begin it, I'm going to end it, and the portion in between will discuss some of the details of the specific plan and also some of the environmental components. By way of history, what we're trying to do with this specific plan is achieve 2 goals. 1, economic reinvigoration of the town center, and 2, meet housing needs that have been established by the state of California for our particular jurisdiction, and they've established that for all the jurisdictions throughout the state. So the idea behind focusing on the town center was based upon availability of land. We're constrained that way, as council knows. We primarily have single-family lots that are vacant, and they're not going to really achieve the number of units and the type of housing that the state would like us to have. And with the desire also to try and reinvigorate our town center, we thought this is a great opportunity, combine both into a mixed-use development and develop a criteria for that prospective developers in the future would be able to come to the city and see if they would like to try and achieve the goals that we would like to have predicated on the plan. Now, the plan you're going to see this evening is not a site plan or a specific development plan. The purpose of having the team that we have, which includes architects and planners and environmental specialists, is to have undertaken enough of a feasibility study, enough of a site analysis to get a pretty good picture of what potential development could look like on the site, and emphasis on the could. So the plan includes if a developer was to come before the city with an idea to develop the town center, or even just a portion of it, what criteria would we use in that evaluation? Would it be consistent generally with that plan? So the presentation tonight is going to focus a little bit on the salient points of what the specific plan tries to achieve. So when a developer would come to the city and say, you know, we don't particularly care for what you have, but we'd like to do this. Well, does it meet the criteria that the council has established for it? Is it going to provide housing? How is the commercial going to invigorate the area and be able to work in unison with that residential housing? What type of infrastructure will there be? Will there be areas to gather and create that momentum with individual shopping and living in the area that would create a dynamic that would be positive for both the residential and the commercial aspects of it? The information you have in the resolution and the ordinance tries to play upon what we have presented to the state already in our housing element. So the resolution that's buried as in the documentation, and then I'm going to discuss a little later, kind of mimics the information that was included in the resolution in which you adopted the housing element. So we're trying to show a tie between the housing element document and this specific plan to prove to the state, yes, this is what we're trying to do to meet your needs. It is not a final plan by any means. It is not a site plan. The specific plan itself is a little bit of a misnomer. Specific plans can be general in nature. What they provide is a framework, general criteria of what development could look like. State law is relatively short, for once, in what is to be included in the specific plan. So basic design criteria, infrastructure needs, consistency with the general plan. There's very few elements that are there. So you can look around Western Riverside County at the larger projects. Those are specific plans. When you head towards Hemet, you go through one specific plan and you're next to another specific plan. Well, the details of that are not necessarily contained in that plan, but the concept is there of what they're trying to achieve. And any subsequent development that would come in to actually subdivide that area, in the case of what I'm referring to on the way to Hemet, would have to mimic the attributes or the criteria contained in that specific plan. The plan itself makes an attempt to, as I mentioned, develop a mixed-use design. The style of mixed use may change. Mixed use in the future, any future development plans may include standalone residential, commercial, and other areas. But the overall intent is that there be a mix of some type. So what you're going to see this evening and what you had seen in the past kind of portrays that. But again, the idea is the overall concept in which we've done a fairly extensive analysis. What can the site hold? What is the manner in which it can be designed and utilized? And what are the key attributes of that particular design? And we'd like to kind of hold that with the knowledge that in the future, a developer may come in and say, well, I think the development concept would work better in a particular manner. But as long as they're holding those concepts as part of their plan, then it would be considered consistent with the specific plan. If they come in with something totally different, then it'd be a brand new plan, and we'd come back to you. So this evening, I have Julia Milosas with WHA. She's going to go over the specific plan that they helped to develop. And then I have Stephanie Standifer with Albert A. Webb Associates. She did the environmental component, and I'll turn it over to them.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as well as Mr. City Manager, City Attorney. Thank you for having us. As I said when we came to you months ago, I'm excited to be part of this. I'm excited to see the potential in the town center. I know that although it's outside of the gates, it's an extension of Canyon Lake and really has so much opportunity. And when you're looking at housing and where to create new housing when it's needed, options are limited. So this is a great opportunity to look at housing in a new way, look at how we can integrate housing, make it a retail, a commercial site, make it a place, which is one of the cornerstones that we discussed all the way through, is how do we take this shopping center and enhance it and add the element of housing and then just reactivate it, make it engaging, make it a place that people want to come to and leave their beautiful homes and the beautiful lake to come outside the gates. And this is a great opportunity. Secondly, I think that providing new housing, providing another housing opportunity for those who maybe wanted, move out of their big house but still want to stay in the community, because this is their community. Their families are here, their friends are here. This is where they want to stay, and here in the future it could be a new place to live where it's a little bit, it's active, you can walk right downstairs, you can have places to gather. So we're excited to look at this. Like Jim said, I'm going to take you kind of through this concept. By no means is this the approved site plan, but it's taking a look at the feasibility of what could happen. So I think most of you guys have seen this before, but this was the process. Again, the specific plan is to create a framework, to create the guide rails for future development. And one of the great things about when you have a specific plan or a document like this, you can really start to come together and have a vision and a direction forward. So I'm happy to say we are now at the bottom of our colorful graphic at the public hearing section. So that's incredibly exciting that we're at this point right now. When we looked at the site, of course, we always want to look at what the site conditions are. What are the opportunities? What are the constraints? Those are the things that help developers and builders and designers come together and figure out great projects and really looking at what the surroundings are and how to best fit within it. So, of course, we took a look at the shopping center inside and out. We looked at what the entry points are, what the beautiful views are. Not only do you have the beautiful mountain views, you have a golf course right there. So really, there's such incredible opportunity here that we should be enhanced and celebrated. We looked at what the on-site conditions are, the circulation per se. How do we take what we have, and if some changes happen, how can we keep some of the great bones that are in the community, in the town center itself? So how do we make good changes without changing too much? What can we play upon and build upon? These were the beginnings of the concepting. What are the types of things that make great town centers? Whether they're big or small, what are those things? What brings people together? And especially in this day and age, what is a great thing? Just places to hang out, be together, grab a cup of coffee, have the kids come and play. Just a great place to go beyond just going into a store and leaving, but somewhere to really spend some time. So we took a look at, again, like I said, there's great bones in this shopping center. So what can we play upon? Taking the golf course, for instance, really making some views, looking outward, taking some of the buildings that are existing, not touching those, but maybe in the future someone touches them, and how do you have a good balance? So this slide is the very important one, I think, that we all take a look at. Conceptual site plan. So conceptual is the key word. We had to look at what's feasible. We didn't want to put something down in this document that is completely unrealistic. It's not fair to you guys. It's not fair to a builder who might come in and develop something and really at the end of the day it doesn't work. So we basically reverse engineered it, where we took a look, see what can happen, and then basically put maximums on there, and a developer then has guardrails to work within. So ideally, we wanted to, like I said, keep some of the buildings because we want to make it a realistic plan. The idea is to make something that works. So take some of the buildings, which if you look at the beige colored buildings, those more or less would be the ones that could stay in place. Nothing would happen to them. Maybe they get facade improvements or something like that, just to bring it a little more life. Then we would take some of the existing buildings, for instance, this building, and take a look at it, see how we can make some retail at the front. Although it's still a shopping center, let's make it a streetscape. Let's try and make it more than just a shopping center feel. So bringing the retail down at the ground level, creating some plazas in between, then putting residential on top, like your quintessential mixed-use environment, small downtown where you have living above retail or commercial office space even. There's a lot of office uses within the shopping centers, small little office uses. These are great. You don't have to drive anywhere. You can live upstairs, move right down to your office. And then, of course, parking. Unfortunately, parking drives many, many projects, so it's key to know what you're working with to make sure it can park. We offered a lot of opportunities in the specific plan where parking was looked at from the residential, but then also looking at shared parking opportunities. And then, of course, looking at if a developer wanted to come in and they had an idea about having a different parking idea, doing a parking analysis. It happens all the time, and it's a great way to look at analogs and say, you know what, you're right, this would happen. This could happen with a different type of parking condition. So what you're looking at here is, of course, the entries. We kept the entries exactly where they were. Those gray buildings, again, it's more diagrammatic, so those would be parking. It would be podium parking, which means you have 1 or 2 floors of parking, and then you have the living on top, so the buildings on top. But the streetscape itself, as you can see, let me see if we have a laser. Do we have a laser on this? No laser. Okay, so you would have the retail on the bottom, you'd have the parking behind it, and then you'd have the living on top. So your streetscape would essentially be the stores or the office frontages. It would be the plazas, and then you could have these great housing units looking down over the shopping center. Another idea with having this type of design is that you can make public amenities such as the ones you see on the street, on the ground floor, and then you can have private recreational amenities. So maybe one of the apartment complexes or townhomes has its own little amenity space with a little gym. Well, that can be elevated above the ground level, but it can still engage and look out onto the center itself. Another great idea, which we thought would be wonderful, especially to enhance some of like the Veterans Memorial that's in the shopping center right now. Celebrate that, bring a connection to it, maybe creating a central plaza where concerts happen or book readings or some place where people can gather, sit around, maybe it's an amphitheater. So really making that the heartbeat of the town center is a place where it can have social engagement, civic engagement. The other thing we really wanted to look at was pedestrian movements throughout the center. How can that be enhanced? How can it be increased? Circulation, of course, not just making it feel like a desolate parking lot, but create very strong pedestrian connections, having more shade trees, having maybe some enhanced paving, all of these types of visual features that really help celebrate a place and make it a place rather than just a shopping center. And when you have the housing element that comes into it, you want to make it activated and make it feel like home, that you are coming home to your town center. These were conceptual renderings, again, what this could actually look like. This is only conceptual. Each builder, each developer has their own idea, has their own program. Of course, it would depend on which parcel they buy. Are they buying 2 parcels, 1 parcel, how that works, and of course, what they're proposing to develop. So these are just some ideas of how the shopping center, how the town center could actually look at the end of the day if it were to be built at the levels that are proposed in here, which again are maximums. So friendly windows out, windows looking out. People can take advantage of the views, the golf courses, the mountains. They can take advantage of being high up in the air, or again, being at a very pedestrian scale where you're down on ground level with your retail, with your little plazas, your walkthroughs, your open space gathering. just another very raw conceptual idea. And thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation.
Absolutely.
Do we have any questions by city council members?
Saving the best for last, the environmentals.
If I could, did you want to do it piece by piece? Staff isn't completed yet.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, sorry, I'm the environmental person. I'll make this quick and as painless as possible. So California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, you're going to approve something tonight, so therefore you trigger CEQA. Webb prepared the environmental document for the specific plan to get approved. As Julia explained, because we didn't really have a real project that somebody was actually ready to build, what we did was we analyzed the maximum amount of development that we could foresee in this specific plan, and we analyzed it in your what's called a mitigated negative declaration, an MND, which is the middle of the road type of CEQA document, which essentially said that all of the potential impacts that could happen with this project, we can get them down to less than significant levels with regular mitigation. So you don't really have any major issues in a project like this. Already built out environment, we don't have bio issues, we don't really have cultural issues. If somebody comes along and wants to build subsurface parking, we will need a paleontological study because we didn't study what's in the ground. But we did the best we could per Jim's direction and foresight so that when somebody comes in and wants to build this SP, their CEQA is essentially complete. And you don't have to redo that again, which again promotes the economic development of this site for your city. It makes it, one step out of the process. So that's it in a nutshell. We did some technical studies. I'm sure you all read it. Do you have questions for me? No? Okay.
Well done. Well done.
So to conclude, Mayor and members of the council, the items before you, there's essentially three major items. So as Stephanie mentioned, there's the environmental component. I wanted to highlight the fact that there were some minor clarification changes to the mitigation measures. CEQA requires that any changes to the mitigation measures after the public review portion has occurred are either equal to or stronger than the original ones. The whole intent of the changes was to create clarification.
Got it.
So they really aren't that much of a change. The ordinance that's before you is to pave the way for the specific plan. So right now, the general plan provides for mixed use at the shopping center. The purpose of the zone change is to have mixed use zoning. The specific plan or the mixed use zone indicates a specific plan can occur provided you have a mixed use zone. So the two are dovetailing. Hence you have an ordinance for the zone change and you have a resolution for the specific plan. And as I mentioned, you'll notice that the resolution for the specific plan is a little lengthy. It may include what seem like odd things, but again, we were trying to reiterate what's in the housing element resolution to again strengthen our position with the state to indicate that we are implementing the components of the housing element. So 3 actions. 1, adopt a mitigated negative declaration as stated with the incorporation of identified modified mitigation measures. Approve and introduce the first reading of the ordinance, changing the zoning from C1 to mixed use, and adopt the next resolution approving the town center specific plan as provided. And the final item is a CEQA item in which we file a notice of determination as required by the law. And now we're ready for any questions.
All right. Any questions?
I just have a quick comment. The environmental review was very comprehensive. It was probably 3 times the depth I expected. It's just kind of amazing. Good to see this done for the developer. That's my only comment. I like the way it looks. I have further comments. I can do them now or later. Do them now.
It's all you.
I just want to talk for a minute about what kind of drove this decision. The council didn't go in a room one day and say, hey, let's build this multi-story, complex, multi-use structure. That really isn't kind of what drove this. What drove this was the state came out and said we had to develop a plan for affordable housing. And not only the state say that, they also said, by the way, and Chris, you can verify this, they said, we're going to give you a couple dollars to help you put together the plan. That's correct, right? They funded a big piece of it.
Well, let me answer that in a slightly different way. So, this is something that we had been thinking about for some time, that the town center is aging. It's not producing a whole lot in the way of sales tax revenue for the city. It's really underutilized, and as the city's primary commercial center, it's just not providing the benefits to the community that it really should. And so we've been thinking, how can we really improve the center? And then the state came out with planning grant money. And we thought, aha. What if we develop a specific plan that lays out a vision for this center to revitalize the center, right? At the same time, we were struggling with the state's housing requirements with our six-cycle housing element. And the two just kind of came together. It really wasn't the housing discussion that started this off. It was the discussion of how to revitalize the center and make it really work for the community. But at some point along the way, we realized, hey, we could really solve two big problems at one time if we look at mixed use here.
I think my comment, I had the same vision of how can we make the center, do better, and that was kind of why we were talking about it. And then the vision, in my mind, became incredibly enhanced with the funding from the state to build the multi-use plan, the need for the affordable housing, and the possibility of what we could possibly do. And I think that at least the state money helped, and state-driven helped me make my vision bigger to something closer to this rather than, we'll put some new facades in front of the buildings and get more people in. Well, I think this was the right way to go, to put this picture into effect where we're going to really do something really, really modern, really effective. I know everybody's afraid, they're going to start digging tomorrow. It's going to be a while. I'm taking the Housing Academy with Southern California government, and the funding for affordable housing is difficult for every city. Every city's saying, where are we going to get the money? There's comments like the states really needs to come up with 30,000 a unit or something to help us go with this. So while this is a big leap ahead and the vision is great, and it'd be great if it's going to start tomorrow, we think this is going to be a journey. This is just the first leg to the journey, and I think it's a most important one because as you say, all journeys usually start with a vision, and now we've kind of laid out a vision. We have something for the developers to envision, and they can also see that many of the hurdles that they would have had to have been gone through for them. And again, it wasn't the citizens' money that paid for the bulk of this. It was really the state grant that paid for this. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Councilmember Welty. Any other questions or comments or questions? Nope. Everyone else good? All right. We're moving on to testimony by proponents. Having none, going once, going twice. Testimony by opponents? Nope. All right. Response by proponents? No. Public hearing, we're going to close it at 7:55. All right. Discussion by city council. Do we have any? Yes. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a question based on CEQA.
Oh, boy. I thought that's why you left the room.
I did.
I did.
I went and got my manual. But because of this project and the size of the buildings, excavation and taking the overburden off and getting down, where does it break off that we have to put a paleontologist for a subterranean garage when most projects will go that deep anyway, just to reburden back the dirt for compaction? Is that too difficult?
Okay, so the test for how deep triggers a paleo study is usually, it kind of depends on the area and the history of the site, but it can be anywhere from 1 to 2 feet. You should probably do a paleo study. However, in this case, because this is a built environment, there's probably fill, it will really just depend on how deep they go with subsurface. If we're talking like 3 or 4 stories of subsurface parking, you absolutely need a paleo study because you're going to be hitting native soil or rock. You're definitely going to need a geotech to see if you have to blast and whatnot. So that part we didn't analyze in here because we don't know.
Okay.
That's all. So it's just it depends on what the developers want. And a smart, savvy developer is going to clearly understand that and know that they are going to need to do paleo and geotech.
Oh, okay, because some of the projects I've seen in other jurisdictions just because the parking is such an issue, they usually use subterranean parking, sometimes 2 levels, just to accommodate not only the traffic for the mercantile, but for the residential.
Right.
So that is definitely a consideration, because you have more land to use for other amenities and other things that enhance the project, so.
Right, which is, I think, why the design team proposed the podium products, which is you build the parking for the first, second, third floors, and then you put it on top, because that is most likely cheaper, because the subsurface and the geotech work to go subsurface is pretty astronomical. And so for this scale of development, which is actually not that big, it probably isn't going to pencil for a developer. Like, if the specific plan was to require subsurface parking, that maybe could have put it in a, tenuous spot. So the podium product that is in your SP, I would say, is designed to attract developers, which should, limit the amount of work that they're going to have to do.
I was hoping we'd find some interesting bones.
Don't jinx yourself.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Motion and second to adopt mitigation. All right, let's see here.
Go for
We
it,
got to
yeah.
take this up in 2, right? 3. Okay, so the first one is I need a motion and a second, and this is for the mitigation negative declaration with the incorporation of identified and modified mitigation measures. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion on that.
Motion.
Oh, second.
The gummy bears are working on this side of the aisle. I need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, moving on now, I need a motion and a second, and this is for the first reading of ordinance number 222.
That side.
I need a motion and a second, gentlemen.
Motion.
Second.
I do now need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 222, amending the city zoning map of the city of Canyon Lake, changing certain property from C1 general commercial to mixed use zone.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay.
I need a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2022-33.
I will motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All right.
Thank you. Praise the Lord. Now I can ask our Madam Clerk to do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2022-33.
And who said governing can't be fun? All right. All right, we are on number 12. This is let's see here, ordinance, first reading of ordinance number 221, an ordinance of the city council. This is in replace of chapter 9-25, Canyon Lake Municipal Code regarding signs. All right, this is going to be fun tonight. Public hearing announcement time is 8 o'clock exactly. It's actually 8:02, but we're going off this time. All right, this is going to be presented by our city attorney. Floor is yours, my friend.
All right, thank you, Mayor. This item is actually the fault of the city clerk, who, in her intrepid study of the municipal code, noticed a unique feature of the ordinance that the city council attempted to pass several years ago regarding signs, which is that it had how many first readings? 3 first readings, no second readings, and never appeared to have been fully adopted. In order to bring our sign
We're a little
code,
skittish, aren't we?
yeah, I know. We honestly couldn't figure it out, and
All
so
right.
it looks like that we had some issues with getting this ordinance through. The original attempt to revise the ordinance related to a United States Supreme Court case. It's called Reid versus the Town of Gilbert. The Town of Gilbert decided to pick on a religious congregation that was putting up temporary directional signs to where they were having their weekly services. One of the things when I talk to code enforcement, I always say never pick on religious groups, because that's where the case law comes out usually adverse to the city. In this case, the Supreme Court made a decision that the city was not able to regulate signs based on the content. The city was going after these signs because they were directional signs. And no other city thought this was a good idea, but that Supreme Court decision had a profound effect on the other ways that we were regulating signs based on content. Primarily here in California, almost every city had a political sign ordinance. And that is because, as this city will likely experience in a few months, when we go through campaign season, if we haven't already, I know we had the POA elections and we're having the primaries. When we go through political season, we tend to get a lot of temporary signs that are placed up. So a lot of cities had size restrictions, time restrictions on when those signs could be up, how many signs you could put in your front yard, etc. So all the cities throughout the country had to come up with content neutral, that is, regulations regarding signs that had nothing to do with what was written on the sign, the message of the sign or the type of message. So we had to amend all of our sign ordinances to relate to temporary signs as opposed to political signs. So that was the primary impetus for getting our sign ordinance up to date. The second issue was, once we really dove into this, and this was Lauren Sanchez in my office, who's been working with Jim Morrissey, we discovered, frankly, our sign ordinance was kind of difficult to work with. It had been updated over the years, and oftentimes when you add things on, when you look at the whole structure from afar, it doesn't look like it goes together very well. So they worked on basically streamlining it, putting it together in kind of a cohesive way, making it readable. That being said, there are some really fun little tidbits in here that we put in just to make sure that you were reading it. One of those was section 9.25070C1, which allows you to only have one temporary yard sign.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
That's 6 feet square. Something worth looking at. I know the POA allows more signs than that under their regs.
Correct.
I know that multiple people run for election in any given cycle. Maybe you want to have more than one sign. But that was what was in the original that they tried to get through back in like 2016, 2017. So that's what was here. The time period, again, that was what was there before, is 90 days. That's a long time to have campaign signs up for. You may want to make that a little bit different. You could, for example, look at what we did for the temporary inflatable signs. Those are the holiday inflatables, right? So for those, we did 30 calendar days and no more than 60 in aggregate per year. You could look at a similar standard to that. We tried really hard not to change the size from where it had been before, because people may already have signs. They don't want to have to go buy new ones. But you'll notice that it's 6 feet square is the sign size. I don't know what the standard political sign size is in Canyon Lake. I'm sure you guys might know better than me. So you may want to, fiddle with that number a little bit just to make sure that we're giving everybody a fair shake. Other than that, the rest of it is mostly intended to be a continuation of the existing code and to make it more streamlined. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it, but that one section that I pointed out is probably the one that if you were going to make some changes, you might want to. We did try to make sure that we were respectful of the political process and also realtors. I try not to make the realtors angry by being unfair to their signs. Any other questions or
Question
comments?
for you, Mr. City Attorney. I know that we're going to all have some changes to this ordinance. Is that going to take place before we go into testimony by proponents and opponents, or do you want that to be done at the discussion by City Council?
I think if the council has changes that you're ready to direct, I have the Word document open right here.
Okay.
From what I'd sent to the city clerk to add to the agenda. I'm happy to make those. It may give the public an opportunity to comment on the ordinance that actually is going to go forward if they know what changes you guys want made.
Perfect. All right. Let the discussion begin. Does anyone have any comments?
I guess my comment would be we'd like to try to be, my view is that we try to be consistent throughout what is normal for the area, not go off and create our own unique rule. If someone's running for the county, I don't think they want to come and, have a limit of their sign size in Canyon Lake that's the size, of that big, and then you can go to Menifee and so I think we should make an effort to be consistent, both in the size and the timing. And the other thing to simply say is that while we would set a standard for ordinance, the POA has their own set of rules. So it's not like the city's going to say this is it, and the POA says they have their specific rules, and that somebody can go, oh, POA can't do that because the city says their limit is there. No, the reality is we're setting our limit, and should the association or the home, or the merchant association decide to do more restricted, that's really their decision. That's not the city's purview. That's my, Stephen, I'm kind of close on that.
I'm a city attorney. I'm not an HOA attorney. They do have some restrictions on their ability to limit non-commercial signs, political signs. My understanding is they have content-based restrictions in their regs.
Correct.
So I think that they allow 3 if it's a POA election.
Correct.
And 2 if it's anybody
not.
else.
Right.
Whether that's enforceable or not, I would leave that to their counsel. But one of the things you may want to consider is if the community already has a rule that allows up to 2 or 3, maybe you want to allow 2 or 3 here. And then in terms of sign size, that is frankly outside of my area of expertise what the standard political sign size is. I think 6 feet square, that would be 2 by 3. That's a pretty decent size sign. But if you wanted to up it to 8 so that you were sure that nobody would get drawn in, I can tell you that having these ordinances is important, making sure that everyone has a level playing field during political season is important. But as a practical rule, I can't imagine code enforcement going out with a measuring stick and saying, you're half a foot over.
You haven't met our city manager. Councilwoman Castillo, you got any comments?
90 days is way too long.
Agreed.
No one wants to look at that for 90 days.
Agreed.
When we revisited this sign ordinance, we talked about several different things. One of them was inflatable objects that were seasonal driven, and the size of them and what they could do. And then we also talked about storefronts. And storefronts a sign. I mean, and we have some storefronts that are entire signage and some that are small. And what did we end up doing? I thought we just said if they've got I'll give you an example. The one right next to us is a full front sign. And that was technically not in compliance with our ordinance at the time. So we modified it to make sure that that was going to be okay, correct?
Yeah, Mr. City Attorney, just clarify with me on this. We actually took it up 2 different times. The first time was because we were having conversations with our business communities because they were doing full wraps on their windows.
Yes.
So we didn't want to, push away from advertisement. So we went away and reiterated, that particular issue. And then the second one was we had some blow-ups with some businesses, and we had an ordinance in place that you would get fined if it was a certain size. So we increased that size to, I believe it was 15 feet, if that's right, Mr. City Attorney, for a blow-up.
Yeah, let me bring it up here. Give me one.
And then you could have it for,
Scrolling to
I believe it was 30 days.
2 inflatable signs not exceeding 15 feet in height, displayed for no more than 30 consecutive days, no more than
Yes.
60 days in aggregate, within a calendar year.
Yeah. So those 2, I think, were more specific for those needs. And if I may, Mr. City Attorney, I think the question that I really have, because Dale brought up a really good point, and I 100% agree with Councilwoman Castillo on the length of time. The first one is countywide is a 45-day. That's usually standard for countywide for the Riverside County. The second component is most municipalities have adopted a sign ordinance of 32 square feet because you have a 4x8, which is standard throughout the county. The only municipalities that do not are the city of, in the desert, it's a nightmare out there, they do things differently, but out here is the city of Marietta, they allow 4x4, so that's 16 square feet. Now these particular political signs, as Dale brought up, these are signs that are related to usually outside in commercial areas or in different fields or aggregate areas. You would most likely never ever see a 4x8 sign in someone's front lawn unless they lived on a corner and it happened to be an extremely busy street. So my question to you, Mr. City Attorney, is if we looked at this ordinance, are we going to be looking at what would be commercial versus residential? Are we going to dictate the 2? Are we going to separate the 2? So we as a council are saying that Pepe's cannot have a 4x8 sign in front of their house supporting their local DA or whatever the story might be. Are we going to identify that, or is that going into too much of the weeds, or?
No, I think that's a good point. I think if I was going to recommend a distinction, I would recommend a distinction based off the use of the parcel as opposed to perhaps its zoning. So when it comes to temporary signs, we could have a size for a parcel that has a residential use on it, and then you could have a size that is permitted for a non-residential use. So an empty lot that's in a residential area, but it's an empty lot, a commercial lot, those would be allowed to have maybe a bigger sign.
Right. I think that would be the right direction. It addresses, the issue that you had, Mr. Welty. And then the other question that I wanted to discuss too, and this is open for debate, we have right now, the way the ordinance is written is one sign. Well, that's legitimately impossible in the city of Canyon Lake. And even the POA contradicts themselves too, because they have an ordinance in there that during an election, it's 3 signs because there's 3 people up for election. And then in a non-POA election year, it's 2 signs. But then that coincides with your city council, your assembly, your supervisor, all the others. So the conversation I want to have amongst my colleagues is, do we want to limit the amount of signs someone can put in their lawn? Because I'm under the impression, first of all, I don't want to limit any Canyon Laker freedom of speech, and I'll stand on that. But more importantly, since we're putting a limitation on the time that the signs can be displayed, I think most people would get over it. If people have 3 or 4 or 5 people that they're supporting for different offices, like your sheriff or your district attorney, and then you're also supporting your local city council members or water board or whatever it might be, I think, in my opinion, it's kind of a hairy area to cover if you're going to say, no, you can only have 2 of those signs up, when we know that there's going to be an end date to those signs to exist anyways. The city manager had a great idea that you could put a calendar on your refrigerator and you can rotate signs throughout the week. So Monday, you support your district attorney, and on Tuesday, you support your sheriff, and then on Wednesday, you support your city council members. So we could implement that tonight, where we come up with a rotary system to inform our constituents.
For the record, Mr. Mayor, I was kidding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mayor, I do have perhaps an idea in that regard as well. One of the more creative ideas that I've seen is not a limitation on the number of signs, but a limitation on the total sign area that you're allowed to have. So, with the understanding that this could create a situation where someone puts a really big sign for, political season. But, you could say you're not allowed to have more than 32 square feet in aggregate of signs.
So you're telling me that when Darcy comes to my door, and I got Chad Bianco and Mike Hestron and all these other folks, I say, I'm out of square footage. I got to negotiate the different square footage for these folks.
It was
and I got to go cut. I got to take people's signs.
I think it'll be
and start cutting them.
Unenforceable. And the fact is, I have just driven around the community, and this is an election process year we're going through. So there's a lot of people that are supporting judges.
Yep.
Supporting different people for district attorney. We've got a couple of people up for different assembly and senate seats. That's not even counting our local county, which is, we've got a board of supervisor running. So, and all of them are good people, and all of them have got supporters in here. So I think it would be unenforceable on the numbers, because I've seen a lot of signage up, and for certain people that are active in the election process. Some people don't want any signs, and I
get it.
I agree with that. But I think we have to be reasonable on something that, if we're going to put a rule, then it's got to be enforced, or we don't have the rule. So let's make it where it's reasonable, enforceable, and not punitive.
I agree, and I do believe that, what's nice about Canyon Lake, and at least after the POA election, it was pretty phenomenal. I mean, within like 48 hours, all the POA signs were, we're a pretty clean community, and this is a very patriotic community, and there are a lot of folks involved. So my suggestion would be that we don't put a limitation on the amount of signs that a resident is allowed to display in their home, but we consider more of that time restraint. So therefore, it's a reduction of a house that maybe will have 4 or 5 signs. So that way, if there is a complaint, we can say, actually, it's only going to be up for another 20 days or 10 days, and then it has to be removed 7 to 10 days after the election. So that would be my suggestion, that we make that change, if everyone would, if everyone agrees with that. And then I really do believe we need to zone in on the timing. I'm completely okay with, 30 or 45 days. So I think that would be a popular move on our part, just because I know the POA tried to do something along this lines in reducing the time of 90 days to 45 or 60. So I know that, people don't like signs out. It looks, trashy for a long period of time. So I think if we kind of dial it down to 45 or 30, I think that would probably be a good move in our part. So does anyone have any comments on that, on what they would prefer, what they think would be more sufficient?
I concur with the 45 days. That's fine. I think we should set a sign limit to a number. I think if we said like 5, that would be more than enough. If people really want to support more, they can rotate. My fear is not the community here we have for the most part, because the HOA are already limited to like 3, so we're not going to really infringe on that. We're not going to see 100 signs, but if we had a residence outside one of the HOAs, and all of a sudden you go down the street and there's 30 signs, it's a little much. I think you can express yourself kind of with 5 signs, and if you really want to express yourself, you can rotate them. I think 5 is probably way more than practical, but I would kind of like to put a cap in case we had a resident outside the HOA and they just,
45 days, and you want to try to do a cap?
I'll do 5. I'm good with 5.
My opinion is, let's see, this is difficult. No, I don't want a number. I think a restriction on, set a time frame on how long, when they go up and when they come down.
Yep.
And because honestly, there's a lot of people that are really political in here that want to support, and then there are others that don't. So I think that's a freedom, and I don't think we should infringe on it. I know what Dale's talking about because of the numbers, just because of the aesthetics of it. But I think for us, I think the limitation on the size would give them plenty of room. Number 2, a certain time that it could be that they're up and then they're taken down. Those are 2 things that we could enforce. And then everything else, just leave it like it is.
Yeah, Dale, it could be a bartering system, like your neighbor only used 2, so you get 3 extra, so now you get your 8, right?
Or use the calendar on the...
Yeah, the rotating system.
The rotating system.
I'm telling you. Jennifer, yes?
So if the POA has a limit of 3 signs, doesn't that conflict if we have no limit or 5 or whatever?
Yeah, I can address that. So there are a number of instances where the regulations between the city and the POA are different. Typically, we implement what makes sense. From our standpoint, the POA does the same, and residents have to follow whichever one is more restrictive, right? It may be that once our new policy is in place, the POA may decide to look at that, and they may want to mirror, what we put in place so that it's the same, but maybe not. People just have to follow whatever is more restrictive.
So if we said there's no limit on number or 5, and the POA's max is 3.
Actually, it's 2.
Then everybody has to abide by that anyway.
Correct.
Correct, but it would
But
be
we
up to the POA to enforce it. We wouldn't,
yeah.
right?
But then the
Yes.
POA
Okay,
would have
got
to
it.
enforce it. Yeah, that's correct. Councilwoman Castillo, you got anything?
I don't think there should be a limit either,
Okay,
and I'm good with 45 days.
okay.
I have 2 signs in my yard right now.
You're good. You're good. No code enforcement. All right.
Okay, so I'm hearing kind of consensus on 45 days. I'm hearing majority consensus on no limitation on number of signs. What about size of signs?
That's the question, right? So I don't think I have an issue with the size currently for residential. I think it's just the commercial zoning. I mean, we have like 1 or 2 parcels that is legitimate in regards to a candidate being able to put a big sign unless they're going to come into the town center, and then they have a business that wants to display one of their big yard signs. I think there needs to be a distinction between the 2, but I'll leave that up to the council on how that
I-
conversation goes.
I think the Merchant Center has some say over signs, so it's not like we can pass an ordinance that you can put, a 20 by 20 sign in the property, and they can come in the Merchant Center and put 20 by 20 signs.
Well, it's
in.
just like our city manager said, that we
So-
can do that, and it's.
We can do it, but the Merchant Center can always come back and say, the size limit here is 4 by 4 in the merchant area. So just because we allow a huge sign doesn't mean they're going to show up all over the Merchant Center, because they have their own set of guidelines.
Right, we're not gonna, yeah.
So-
For the sake of this conversation, we're gonna set up, the way the guidelines that we see fit for the city.
Right.
And then, as the city manager has clearly indicated, that whichever one's stricter is what that person's gonna have to follow.
Exactly, so we're not going to end up with, the whole Merchant Center covered with 8 by 8 signs. It's not realistically going to happen. Let me just throw out a number. I think you said something about 4 by 8 was pretty
Yeah,
common.
it's 32 square feet.
Let me throw out 4 by 8 as a number. I'm not attached to it. I'm open to discussion. I think we don't start with a number. We're going to
Yeah.
kind of float around for a couple hours.
And is it an issue, Mr. City Attorney, to divide the two and have, obviously, we're not gonna, we don't want a 4 by 8 in someone's lawn?
No, our sign code, as it is now and how we're proposing it, separates residential and non-residential areas.
Okay, oh, then perfect.
Yeah, so we're already ready to go. Just tell me what size you want for the non-residential area.
Okay, so just so everyone can be educated on signs in regards to residential, there's two sizes that that most people use, which is 18 by 24 and 22 by 30. What's the square foot of the 22 by 30?
You're asking the
Yeah,
attorney?
I'm asking you, the mathematician. Do you have a law degree?
Less than
Where'd
6
the
square
engineer
feet.
go?
Then we're good. So
Less
I'm,
than 6 feet.
if it's less than square feet, then I think those are the two standards that are on the market for the most part, unless you get super custom. So I think 4 by 8 for residential, and then the 6 square feet for, 6 feet for residential, and then the 4 by 8 for our commercial zoning, is I think what we're kind of going with. Does that make sense? Is that good for everyone? Okay, so to reiterate, we're doing a 45-day window. We are not limiting on how many yard signs you can display in front of your home or business. And we are going down to a 6 foot for residential and a 32 square feet, which is a 4 by 8 for commercial. Did I do that right?
Yes, let me read back to you the language that I have now.
Okay.
Signs no larger than 6 square feet in size for no more than 45 consecutive calendar days, and no more than 90 calendar days in aggregate, because you sometimes have a primary election and then a
Right.
general election in the same year, right? Consecutive or non-consecutive. Any temporary sign in relation to a specific event, parentheses, for example, an election, shall be removed within 5 days
Yeah,
after
we
the
need-
event? What, you said 2 days or 5?
It's either 7 or 10. What do y'all want to do? Dale likes to go on vacation after elections, so I think we should do 10.
All right, we'll go with 10 calendar days. All right, and then for the non-residential lots, it's the same language, but instead of 6 square feet, it's 32 square feet.
Yep.
Good.
Any objections on that? Jennifer, you want to go 7 and cut it? You go 5, I go 10, we go 7?
Yes.
You like that? That just made her happier, so let's do that.
You going 7?
Is that okay with everyone?
All right.
7 days good?
That's
Is 1
7
week
days
good?
after, it's good.
Is that okay?
Fine.
Perfect. See,
Okay.
I'm listening.
And I will say that all of those are enforceable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. City Manager, are you good?
Fantastic.
So I'm sorry we couldn't take up your idea. I liked it, though. My wife's working on it, so. All right, so we're done with questions of staff by city council. We're moving right along to the testimony by proponents.
None.
All right, testimony by opponents.
None.
Response by proponents. None. Public hearing is closed at 8:25. Dang it, my 8:30 window's not working out. All right, discussion by city council. Anything else? All right, I do need an action. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
And just to be clear, this is for ordinance number 221,
As amended.
as amended. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 221, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, replacing Chapter 9.25 of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code regarding signs, as amended.
All right, that takes care of our public hearing. Is that the first time that we've done 4 in one council meeting? At least as long as you've been here, right? Oh, man. All right, business items. Moving on to number 14. This is the adoption of resolution number 2022-34. I'm going to let our city attorney present this bad boy.
Okay, give me 1 second to bring that one up. So this is my favorite staff report that I've ever put together.
I thought the 421 was.
That was just you guys letting me have a little bit of fun with numbering.
Got it.
This one is a result of an act of the California legislature in October of last year, Assembly Bill 1276, which prohibits restaurants and other food facilities, including those who are using third-party delivery platforms, from providing single-use foodware accessory or standard condiment packages for single use to consumers unless specifically requested by the consumer. This includes utensils, chopsticks, condiment cups, packets, straws, and stirrers, which are used once and then discarded. Of particular note, look, if the state wants to pass laws like that, that's what the legislature does. But of particular interest to me as a city attorney was that the bill, in addition to this, requires the city to designate an enforcement agency by June 1st, 2022. So here we are.
And I believe you tried to enforce, the governor to enforce this, right?
We did.
Yeah.
So we were looking at, okay, who could we designate as the enforcement agency? Could we designate the governor's office since he signed it? Could we designate the highway patrol as the state police agency? We called the sheriff, they laughed. So the issue was, okay, well then we probably need to designate the city, only because, as it turns out, if you want to designate another agency as the enforcement agency, that other agency has to consent to being your enforcement agency. I would like anyone to know that if they violate this ordinance, the first and second time, they are going to get a notice of violation. If there is a third occurrence, they may be fined up to $25. Up to a maximum of $300. The resolution that we have included designates the city as the enforcement agency. Obviously, code enforcement has a significant amount of very important health and safety issues to deal with. I'm sure that they will give this state law their undivided attention when their duties do not require them to be doing other things. So I think
said that with a straight face.
I did. So I do expect that we will likely, do a little bit of education, making sure that our local restaurants and food facilities know that this is now the law in the state of California, and that if they have any questions, they're welcome to ask us.
Are we allowed to make changes?
To the law, no.
To our restrictions, our fines? Can we change 25 to $1?
So the amounts of the fines are maximums, and
Okay.
they're set by state law. So we can fine no more than $25.
Okay.
I didn't anticipate going that hard after people for handing out a straw.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would hope so.
At least on the first go.
Is it broken down on, I hate to laugh at this, but it's serious.
It's so dumb.
Because I'm dead serious.
Hey, I had to write all of this.
I know you did, and you did very well with the tongue in cheek. But that means every food truck that comes in to our vicinity for Fiesta Days or for 4th of July, all the activities that we have here at the center when we have our Winterfest, which we have people in here, that means that we have to go around and enforce every one of these?
But if I may, just before we get too in-depth here.
Good.
It would probably be a mistake to say in a public setting something like, there's no way in the world we're going to enforce this. So I won't say that. That's all I have to say.
Can we change it to $1?
I think if the council wanted to let us know that they felt an appropriate fine for a third or more violation was $1, that's something that code enforcement can take into account when they are.
On a straw?
Maybe a per straw basis.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's per straw, because sometimes I get 3, so,
Yeah.
You're going to have to start carrying your stash now. I hate those paper straws.
Well, I think it's the chopsticks.
Could be. I mean, that is out, I don't know if that's one utensil or two.
There's two.
Okay, yeah. So we.
They start as one, though. You gotta break them in half.
So it is doubled.
So we can certainly look at it. I mean, look, this isn't new from the legislature.
Yeah.
You know, they do this every now and then. President Burke may recall there was a point where the state prohibited restaurants from giving you a glass of water unless you asked for a glass of water. It did not solve our water crisis.
I remember that.
Yeah. He may be coming back. So every now and then they come up with things like this.
Mr. City Attorney, if this isn't adopted tonight, what happens?
I don't know. You know, we are required under state law, so I mean, in theory, the state could bring a writ of mandate compelling us to designate an enforcement agency. I feel like the wise course to do, when you have a law like this, you want to make sure that you are protecting your businesses
Right.
From indiscriminate enforcement. It's probably best to keep that prosecutorial discretion with the city. So my strong recommendation, regardless of what you think about the wisdom of the legislature's action here,
Right.
is to designate the city as the enforcement agency.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah, it's hard to keep a straight face.
I know.
But
It's ridiculous. This is what it's come to. What's your question?
I have no question that really would mean
All right.
anything.
Any other questions?
I do have one before we vote on this. Since this is a pass-through and we have enforcement responsibilities, is the state going to pay for our training that we have to do our code enforcement to know the difference between the utensils and the other things that we have to do? Isn't Senate Bill 80? Yeah, state funding for training.
You know, that is an excellent question, and one which you will be pleased to understand that I did research. The legislature did determine that this was a state mandate, and that the California Constitution required the state to reimburse local agencies for costs mandated by the state. And the only language they had was that statutory provisions exist that make reimbursement possible.
That's it?
Okay, I like it.
I don't know what that means. No, but you know, I do think that the state was, at some point, they were looking at how much total unfunded mandates, how much money they actually owed cities. And we were creeping into the billions of dollars at some point. So at some point, perhaps they will address it, but I'm not anticipating reimbursement for training. No.
Are they, on a serious note, are they going to provide, since the state is pushing this through, and we're the enforcement agency, are they going to give us any print material or material to hand out to our restaurants and all the people, POA and everybody, on their mandate that?
I don't anticipate getting language like that from the state. We'll likely work with the other cities and the county to get a single type informational flyer that'll go around throughout the entire county. The county tends to take the lead on food facility regulation, so I anticipate they will have some helpful literature that they'll share with us that we can use.
Okay, do we have any public, okay, are we good? Good? Okay, public comments? None? This is gonna be great. I need a motion. I do need a second.
Motion.
Really?
I want the money.
All right, Madam Clerk, can we please get a roll call on this?
Councilmember Castillo. Aye. Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
For the record, this is for resolution number 2022-34. Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving along to business item number 15. Okay, this is the adoption of resolution 2022-35, authorizing the city manager to sign moratorium of understanding between the city of Canyon Lake and Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District. Explains why Darcy is still here. Just kidding. We love you. Presentation by the city manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. You may recall that we have been in discussions with EVMWD and the POA regarding the permitting and inspection of docks and other facilities that are built on the lake. You may recall that we have a temporary moratorium on docks over certain size, certain uses, et cetera. So, we're beginning our work on that issue. The first step really was to make sure that we clarified with EVMWD what our jurisdiction was. Structures, third-party structures that are built on the lake, such as docks and seawalls, have been happening here, since the community began to develop, but no one has really taken up the role of permitting those, of inspecting them, make sure that they're safe. And as these docks are getting bigger and electrical's being run out to them, and we're getting bigger and more elaborate applications.
And grandma's starting to live in them.
It's become more of an issue that all parties involved agree somebody needs to be permitting these. And all three parties agree that the city is probably the entity that it makes most sense to do that, to take that on. So this is an MOU by which the city and EVMWD agree that the city's in that best position, and the city will be permitting and inspecting these facilities on EVMWD property, specifically the lake. This does not apply to EVMWD facilities on their own property. It relates to third parties that are applying. And so they will go through the regular process. They'll go to the POA. It has to then go to EVMWD for EVMWD's approval, and only then will it come to the city, and we'll begin the process of permitting. So we are in the process of developing an ordinance that will address the regulations, both in terms of building and safety issues, but also in terms of zoning, planning type issues, and we'll be bringing that in the near future. But this is the MOU between EVMWD and the city that clarifies our jurisdiction to do this work.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I do want to give a shout out to both of our presidents that are in the House, because I don't believe probably 5 years ago, we could pick up the phone and have the conversation that we've had on this particular ordinance between the city and the water and the POA. So you guys have been phenomenal in that regard. So I just want to say thank you so much, because we were able to brainstorm, and I think we're off to the right track on this. And from what our city manager has told us, it's been a good experience working with everyone on this. Do we have any questions for staff on this?
One question, and it's for Darcy. The encroachment permit, I thought the POA was issuing the encroachment permit through you guys, but they were doing it, or are we still going to have to go to three parties, POA, you, and us?
Well, and I'm glad you asked the question, because I wanted to clarify. Currently,
Speak in the microphone, please.
Thank you. Currently, a seawall and a standard dock does not come through us. It's kind of a blanket approval that we've been able to work out. If it's a different type of material, since we're worried about water quality, then it comes to our water quality team. If it's encroachment on the land beyond the seawall, whether it's a structure, a beach, a swimming pool, which is the favorite conversation, then it goes from the POA to the water district, back to the POA, and then the resident may approach the city for a building permit.
Okay, so there's no more, the encroachment permits that we used to have to get for seawalls and docks are no longer issued.
Correct.
So anything in that right-of-way zone, I'll call, that is structural, will have to have an encroachment improvement and then an inspected.
Correct.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay.
And does that clarify for you, Chris?
It does. With one clarification, though, this MOU specifies that the city will only process applications for third-party facilities that are accompanied by written authorization from EVMWD.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right.
Okay.
That's real good.
Perfect. Everybody
Oh, yeah, no, awesome. Thank you for clarifying that. Go ahead.
I am concerned, though, because when we realized that inspections weren't happening on docks with electrical,
Right.
and that would be existing. So I'm not sure how, I'm sure we'll work it out.
Yeah,
But
we're working
some
on that part.
Some that are they have deteriorated. They've lived beyond their useful life. That would be changed out with same structure, fine, but if they're adding electrical or whatever, obviously that would be my concern. And
We've
last time
talked about that.
Yeah, and as we start to craft the ordinance, we'll definitely be working
Okay.
with EVMWD and with the POA so that everyone has input on what that
Perfect.
looks like.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? No? Thank you for hanging out with us on this. Appreciate that. All right. Any public comments?
No.
Okay. Do you want to have Darcy fill out a public comment card?
No, she
Okay.
was responding to
I'm
Mayor
kidding.
Pro Tem.
I'm kidding. We're good. I need a motion and a second, and it has to be done by females.
Motion.
Second.
I do need a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolution number 2022-35.
All right. Here we go. Are you ready? I hear you laughing back there. All right, we're moving on to business item 16. This is approval of the city's budget. Adoption resolution number 2022-36 and also 2022-37. Terry Shea, you are up. The floor is yours. You get 3 minutes.
Perfect. Your Honorable Mayor, City Council, and City staff. I want to thank everybody again for the help with the budget. The chief made me laugh, sorry. He said I had 2 minutes, not 3, so. This isn't my favorite staff report, but it's close because there's a balanced budget. I am the new AP clerk, so if you don't get your $100 checks regularly, sorry. But when you do get them, please cash them because I do the bank rec. So I appreciate you cashing the check. So
He's talking to me.
could be Casey, could be Jeremy, but
Could be 7 in my drawer right now.
all right. So anyways, what we have here is the budget, and there's been a few changes since the last time we talked. We moved some stuff around. We got a final invoice from PERMA, and so some of that changed. We took some of what was over in the fire department, moved it to the city's the general fund, or not the fire budget, but the facilities budget, where all the insurance is kept. So what you have before you is the fiscal year 22-23 budget, and then the salary and wage schedules, which we need you to approve. The general fund revenues are estimated to be $7,241,000. Estimated general fund expenditures are $6,829,781. The projected fund balance at June 30th, 2023 is $5.7 million, which is roughly about 70% of our expenditures, or 80% of our expenditures, which is good. So you want to have at least 6 months, and we're well over that, so we're in good shape. The budget reflects a general fund surplus of $411,219. And this is our first full fiscal year with the fire department, and our final budget estimates are $1,764,872, which is well below the savings from where we would have been with the county. And it also has the salary and wage schedules, which were adopted or up for inflation, as well as the recent study, and those are in the back too. So I'll kind of go through this real quick. So you can see our largest revenues are on top there. So we have property taxes, $1,048,000, property taxes, fire, $1,210,000, the VLF swap, which gets reported as a property tax as well, $1,066,000, and those are all based on assessed values of the properties. The county estimated a 6% increase. We went with a 4%, a little bit conservative. The utility users tax is kind of hovering right around there, and we had a little bump when everybody was home in 20, but it's kind of gone down just a little. Then franchise fees is our next biggest one, and then fees for services, which includes the EMS and all the building and permits, planning permits. Any questions on the revenues? So here's kind of a picture. You can see our largest there, property tax, VLF, fire structure fee, and property taxes, and utility users. And we're in pretty good shape having 4 large revenues as opposed to just the 1 or 2 that we had in the past. So, and then here's the summary of all the funds. So our gas tax fund, that includes our RMRA money, which in this fiscal year, I'm going to break it out to its own fund, just to make it easier to track, because we have to track that money separately. So next year, that'll be on its own budget. Measure A, which is the sales tax measure in Riverside County for transit. The AQMB trust, which we get about $14,000 a year, and in the past, we bought mostly vehicles with that. The law enforcement grants, that's money that we get every year that's adjusted for inflation, and we use that to cover part of the sheriff's costs. And then the ARPA money, which is that $1,349,000. And then here's our general fund expenditures by department, and then personnel, O&M, capital, and total. So our largest expenditure obviously is the capital, so, or the O&M. Here's 56. In the past, we were higher than 56% for public safety, so we're going in the right direction. In the past, we used to be up near 70% public safety, so we're doing good. And then our fund balance summary. So I'm estimating at the end of this fiscal year, 5.3 million, the 7,241,000 in revenues, which gives us funds available of 12,541,000, expenditures of 6,829,000, and ending fund balance of 5,007,000. So you can see we almost have a full year's worth of fund balance as our expenditures, which is very good. The gas tax fund and the Measure A funds were updated for expenditures. We received their an updated report from Interwest, and so those numbers have changed since the last time you saw this. So any questions on these funds? And then here's the expenditure summary. You can see general fund 6.8, the gas tax Measure A, those are the ones that were updated for the projects that are coming due. The law enforcement grants is all for offset the sheriff's costs. And then the ARPA, there's a separate page for that. The rental fund, 61,000, and we're showing a net profit for the year. So any questions on the budgets, the salary schedules, the appropriations limit, or anything?
Awesome job, Terry. Awesome job being on finance and planning. It's been a pleasure to see the work that the staff has put in on the budget and what we're looking at for this upcoming year. So I really appreciate the hard work. It's phenomenal. And to hear another 10 grand in a surplus, just awesome. Any questions? We good? All right. Public comment cards? Anything? Nothing? Okay. I need a motion, and this is to adopt resolution number 2022-36 and 2022-37. Motion.
Motion to adopt.
A second.
Second.
No, beat you to it. Need a roll call vote.
Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried to adopt resolutions number 2022-36 and 2022-37.
All right, city manager comments. Please remember to keep it to 3 minutes.
Just a couple quick things. The city clerk would beat me after the meeting if I didn't remind everyone that there's an election next week.
That's why she's wearing the vote shirt.
That's right, that's why she's wearing the
I
vote
turned my
shirt.
ballots in at the box. Thank you so much.
The county will be hosting a voting location upstairs in the location that was formerly the library.
Yep.
On Tuesday. What days?
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Okay.
All 4 days.
All 4 days, all 4 days, very good. There has been some talk of rescheduling the September city council meeting because we have the annual league conference that first week. So I think the idea is to move the council meeting to the following week, which would be Wednesday, September the 14th.
Does that work with everyone's calendars? Yes. Good? Cool. We're
Okay,
good.
we will make it so, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. You got like a minute and 30 seconds. We can give it over to the city manager if you'd like. He's busy sending emails, which I just read. All right, we're going to play Russian roulette. Here we go. Councilwoman Dane. Casey thought I was going to pick on her because she made eye contact. She made eye contact.
You were not interviewing me.
I'm sad that there's not more people here to hear, but maybe lots of people are watching
Yes.
on TV. Real quick, Animal Friends of the Valley, half-price microchip for your dogs and cats for June.
That's awesome.
So $10. All right. Most importantly, beyond excited and pleased about our turnout for Fiesta Day and our crazy flag project that we had. Great volunteers that helped. It pretty much went off without a hitch. People worked really hard, but I think really liked doing it. We've already had people volunteer for next year.
Yep.
So maybe we'll do it again. I'm just overwhelmed by the spirit of the community and how everybody pitched in to get this done, and just how cool it is to see all the flags in everybody's yard. And there's still a lot out there, which I like seeing. And I appreciate everybody who not only put the flags in the hard ground, but picked them up when they were falling over. I know people when they weren't in strong enough, they fell over. I know a lot of people were picking them up, but we just had everybody, as I kind of expected Canyon Lake to be, but just really proud to be a part of this. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you. All right. Casey?
Okay. I want to echo that. I think that was one of the most rewarding and positive things that I've done in this city and while being on council. And I want to say a big thanks to Anna and city staff for tying all those ribbons. And really just, I mean, it was so seamless, like you said. You picked up a box. The maps were great. And so I really appreciate that. Yesterday I attended a Zoom work group meeting with other female electeds in the Southwest region. Our discussion topic is pathways to education. Our discussion is centering on bringing four-year satellite campuses to the area. So that's exciting. Fingers crossed. Looking forward to the security meeting with POA and Mayor Pro Tem Green next week. Junior lifeguard tryouts were awesome. It appears that Canyon Lake is going to be having the majority showing of junior guards in Lake Paris this summer, which means that we met our goal of showing that there's a lot of interest from Canyon Lake since we're all going to their program. So I'm super excited about that. I'm grateful to all the city staff who are working hard to make sure that our buses are going to be able to take those kids there, and it was just great to see the community come out and support. Fire department has been there at every tryout. POA has been there at every tryout, and it's been a nice thing to see. So I appreciate the support. Let's see. Oh, congratulations to Canyon Lake Little League. We have Little League teams that made it to Tournament of Champions, and they're winning. So that means, more showing of Canyon Lake awesomeness outside the gates. And I'm looking forward to seeing Canyon Lake residents at Club Rush Saturday 4 to 8. I will be at the Clear booth and selling shirts at the same time from the Veterans Club for 9/11. So come out, get involved, buy shirts, and that's it.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Councilmember Welty.
Just a couple comments. It's summertime again. Please get your kids involved this summer and get them engaged in the activities that are all around the lake. Secondly, we had kind of a little fun with the state and the level of minutia they want to get into our daily lives. It is kind of amazing, but the overall philosophy is that we need to act responsible with our resources. I don't want to state that we don't agree with that basic philosophy. The desire to get into the minutia at times does seem overwhelming, but the basic core that we need to be responsible with our resources, that's not a joke, and that's really something we need to do. I went to Vector this month, and then one of the discussions is keeping the staff online because they're having to hire for the summer, and it's a struggle, and people are leaving, and the replacement's a little rough. So it's kind of across the government and across the business. It's hard to get people. So just be aware of that. The last thing is just that we had a comment about the tax, that people were getting charged tax from Menifee, and why is Menifee getting the money? Happened to me. I went to the car dealer, talked to them a couple times. They wrote me a check, and I got the money back. So the money didn't go to Menifee. It went back to me. You just got to call them up and be a little persistent. Cars are not, $3,000, and it's not $10. It's $50,000, and it's $500. So be persistent. Get your $500, and there's a box in the Canyon Lake City Council, our city staff up there. You just drop your $500 check, and we'll be happy to take that rebate up there. So if you get it, no, I'm serious. Please, don't be taking advantage. It's not legal for them to do that. They're not trying to mess with you. They just go in and they look up the zip code and they put the number in, and just tell them that that's yours and you should get it back.
Thank you, Councilmember Welty. Mayor Pro Tem Green, you're up.
Well, I'm going to encapsulate a couple of things. I wasn't at the last meeting, so some of this is RCA. RCA doesn't meet till next Monday, along with our committee for the POA in the afternoon. But one of the main things we talked about is how the impact RCA is having on the different communities and development, and also the MSHCP, and how it's viewed in some areas and not in others, and how it's being regulated. So they're going to do an outreach program to the partner agencies to provide some education on different aspects of that and the fee structures that go with that, plus the fee credit policy, which is in high debate right now. So that is one of the things we talked about. Also, SB 856 is referencing wild pigs in Central Valley, but we have feral pigs here in Riverside County. Corona has a lot. We have a lot on the RCA properties. So they are going to develop a policy of how to deal with the feral pigs. So we have a meeting coming up next Monday, so that will be it. One of the things I was involved with, I met with the mayor of Marietta specifically to talk about RCA, and also the mayor of Riverside. And so we are jointly working on some questions and hopefully some other things to help us get a better understanding where RCA is at, because right now things are being changed as we speak. A lot of the things that RCA has said to partner agencies as far as development has changed. They went in with one plan, and RCA has now said that doesn't apply, something else does. So we're trying to get to that bottom and see what we can do. Also, I did a ribbon cutting at Railroad Canyon, did the SCAG conference in the desert, had a little blip there, but yeah, everything worked out. Prayer Day was cool. Cancer Fair was very successful, did a good job there. We have the emergency preparedness meeting coming up tomorrow, and they're going to have a booth at the fair, or what's it called on Saturday?
Club Rush.
Club Rush. And they're also going to do a class called Stop the Bleed. So those who have watched Stop the Bleed is what's real prevalent now on, especially with, unfortunately, the mass shootings that we've had. So that's all I have till next week.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Green. All right, moving right along, a couple updates. RCTC, they just finished the striping project underneath the I-15 over Railroad Canyon Road. Also for RTA, ridership is up, probably because of gas prices, so that would make more sense. And this is just, quarterly stuff we're going through, just like we're going through here, updating contracts, consulting fees, that sort of thing. So nothing much to report with those two agencies. Additionally, I just want to say, unbelievable weekend. Unbelievable, like absolutely phenomenal. Kids involved, taught them about the flag. They dropped many of them. They learned a couple things, and it was just an incredible experience to be with residents and see them want to participate like in the moment. So I think next year is going to be even more so, and the city manager wants us to do this on 4th of July too, so he's just rolling his eyes and he wants to buy more flags. That's probably not going to happen, but we'll see. So incredible weekend, and I just want to say thank you to the Canyon Lake residents who came out strong, and more importantly, not just to hold a beer up and have a good time, but also for the remembrance of what the weekend was really about. So it was really clear with the patriotic movement that we had here in Canyon Lake. With that, I'm going to wrap it up because it is exactly 9 o'clock. Announcement I have is the next regular city council meeting will be July 6th at 5 p.m., closed session at 6:30. I'm sorry, closed session is going to be at 5, and then open session will be at 6:30, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 9 o'clock.
Wow.
Done.